Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour. Violence returns to Syria after rebels launch surprise offensive against government. More than 200 combatants killed as fighting rages on. West Asia on razor's edge as Israel and Hezbollah trade accusations of ceasefire violations. Netanyahu threatens intensive war if fragile truce is breached. Russian President Vladimir Putin says Russia could hit decision-making centers in Kyiv with new missile. Ukraine sees despicable escalation in the ongoing conflict. After Australia passes social media ban for children under 16, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says concerned firms now have a responsibility to protect the kids. And in men's Junior Asia Cup hockey, India beat Japan 3-2 in a close encounter. News in detail now. Syrian rebel forces have launched a major offensive in northwestern part, capturing territory from President Bashar al-Assad's forces for the first time in years. The Islamist militant group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and allied factions said they had seized control of a number of towns and villages in Aleppo and Idlib provinces since Wednesday. The Syrian military said its forces were confronting a large-scale attack by terrorists and inflicting heavy losses on them. A UK-based monitoring group said more than 200 combatants on both sides had been killed in the fighting. At least 19 civilians had also been killed in Syrian and Russian airstrikes and opposition-held areas. More than 500,000 people have been killed in the civil war that erupted after the government cracked down violently on peaceful pro-democracy protests in 2011. Russia, a close ally of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's, intervened in Syria's civil war in 2015, helping shift the conflict in Assad's favor. Now, Israel said its Air Force struck a facility used by Hezbollah to store mid-range rockets in southern Lebanon on Thursday after both sides accused each other of breaching a ceasefire that aims to halt over a year of fighting. Israeli military said it also opened fire on Thursday towards what it called suspects with vehicles arriving at several areas in the southern zone, saying it was a breach of the truce with Iran-backed armed group Hezbollah, which came into effect on Wednesday. Hezbollah lawmaker Hassan Fadlallah in turn accused Israel of violating the deal. The Lebanese army later accused Israel of violating the ceasefire several times on Wednesday and Thursday. The exchange of accusations highlighted the fragility of the ceasefire, which was brokered by the United States and France to end the conflict. Fought in parallel with the Gaza war, the truce lasts for 60 days in the hope of reaching a permanent cessation of hostilities. Israel's airstrike on Thursday was the first since the truce took effect on Wednesday morning. The ceasefire deal stipulates that unauthorized military facilities south of the Litani River should be dismantled, but does not mention military facilities north of the river. And Hezbollah lawmaker Hassan Fadlallah accused Israel of attacking people returning to their villages in South Lebanon. He said that Israel had violated a ceasefire deal by firing on civilians returning home to their villages along Lebanon's southern border with Israel.
Today's message must be completed by having a national decision, first, to build a strong, just and capable state, and second, by having an army with the most modern weapons, and for its decision to be that of cabinet and government to counter any Israeli violation. There are violations today by Israel. Even in this form, we are with the state countering and carrying out its full role. That is why we say it too.
Meanwhile, in his first interview since the Lebanon ceasefire, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned that any failure by Hezbollah to comply with the ceasefire terms would lead to an intensive war. In the interview with a media outlet, Netanyahu described the Lebanon ceasefire as potentially brief, stating that Israel enforced it on its first day. Netanyahu said he had given the Israel Defense Forces instructions that in the case of a massive violation of the agreement, the response would extend beyond surgical operations like they are doing now. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin threatened to strike decision-making centers in Kyiv with Russia's new hypersonic missile. Putin said a Russian overnight missile and drone attack on Ukraine's power grid was a response to Ukraine's use of long-range US and UK weapons inside Russia. Russia fired more than 90 missiles and around 100 drones during the barrage, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urging his allies to respond firmly to what he dubbed Russian blackmail.
We will respond to such acts of aggression against the Russian Federation. How and when and with what weapons we will respond will depend on the targets that will be selected by the General Staff of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation. Because for each, a different type of weapon suitable for these purposes must be used.
Meanwhile, Ukraine reports no fatalities after the attack, but more than 1 million Ukrainians are left without power as 12 targets were struck. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia of a despicable escalation, saying it had used cruise missiles with cluster munitions. He also discussed the attack with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who described targeting the energy sector as depraved.
We must respond together to Russia's attempt to make the situation more unbearable and to try to drag out this war. We are interested in peace, us and all partners. Now is the time to strengthen our positions, the positions of Ukraine and our partners. Any Russian blackmail must be met with a tough response, in the way Putin deserves, and we must see the prospect of ending the war with genuine peace together with America, together with Europe, together with all the partners.
Now, US President Joe Biden has said that Russia's overnight aerial attack against Ukraine is outrageous and serves as a reminder of the urgency and importance of supporting the Ukrainian people. Biden, in a statement released by the White House on Thursday, said that Russia continues to underestimate the bravery, resilience and determination of the Ukrainian people, adding United States stands with more than 50 countries in support of Ukraine and its fight for freedom. Russia on Thursday unleashed its second big attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure this month, triggering deep power cuts across the country. President Vladimir Putin said Moscow had struck in response to Ukraine's strikes on Russian territory with US medium-range ATACMS missiles. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin denied on Thursday that he had deliberately used his black Labrador Coney to intimidate then German Chancellor Angela Merkel at a meeting in 2007. Asked about the incident on Thursday, Putin denied he had been aware of Merkel's phobia and said he had later apologized to her. As Merkel wrote in her new memoir, Freedom, that knowing Putin sometimes brought the pet to meetings with foreign guests, she had asked an aide the previous year to request Putin's team not to bring out Coney in her presence because she was afraid of dogs. Now, Britain and Iraq have signed a series of agreements aimed to target people smuggling gangs and strengthen border cooperation, the latest in its efforts to crack down on illegal immigration. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a deal with Iraq to tackle people smugglers and a white paper to overhaul the visa system. His comments came after Interior Minister Youet signed an agreement with Baghdad to ensure close cooperation to tackle organized crime networks. Hooper also signed a new agreement to ensure failed Iraqi asylum seekers are returned home more swiftly. She met ministers from the federal government in Baghdad and regional leaders in Kurdistan in north, where many smuggling gangs are based. The UK also pledged to support Iraqi law enforcement in combating other forms of serious organized crime, including drug trafficking.
And I'm pleased to announce today a new security agreement between Iraq and the UK. This is a world first that will help us smash the people smuggling gangs and secure our borders. The Home Secretary has been out in Iraq to seal this deal, and we've also announced funding for Iraqi law enforcement to tackle this problem upstream, way before it reaches our shores.
And following the unexpected victory of Romania's far-right presidential candidate Calin Georgescu, country's top court has ordered a recount of the votes from Sunday's first round of elections. Hundreds of Romanians gathered in central Bucharest on Thursday to protest against Georgescu, who unexpectedly won the first round of the presidential election. A small group of Georgescu also rallied on the streets in support of the candidate just hours after Romania's top court ordered a recount of votes. The Constitutional Court unanimously ordered the re-verification and recounting of the voting ballots for November 24 presidential election. The decision adds to the ongoing turmoil in Romania's electoral process, which is set to hold 3 elections over the next 3 weeks. Now, Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris made a final appearance on the campaign trail on Thursday as a slide in support for his Fine Gael party showed signs of stabilizing ahead of Friday's election. The last opinion poll before Friday's general election indicated a likely return of the centre-right-led coalition to government. Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil have both pledged to govern again without Sinn Féin, meaning the left-wing party needs to finish well ahead of both to change the dynamic. Voting will start on Friday, bringing to a close election campaign in which the main parties have sought to lure voters with ambitious spending plans to address a rising cost of living and a housing shortage. Immigration was another key campaign topic as the main political parties joined a raft of far-right independent candidates in adopting tougher stances on rising immigration. Members of Bolivia's ruling party MAS celebrated on Thursday the recognition by the Electoral Tribunal of Grover Garcia as its new head, replacing former President Evo Morales. During the festivities, attendees danced to traditional music. Garcia and Bolivian President Luis Arce made an offering. Garcia's appointment comes amid growing public fatigue towards Morales. Morales, recently accused of sexual abuse and child trafficking, claims he remains the leader of MAS. He and Arce have been embroiled in a power struggle for the party's leadership, sparking protests and road blockades by Morales supporters. Now, police clashed with protesters in the Georgian capital Tbilisi early on Friday after the country's ruling party said the government would suspend talks on European Union accession and refuse budgetary grants until 2028. Police ordered protesters to disperse, fired water cannon and deployed pepper spray and tear gas as masked young people tried to smash their way into the parliament. Georgia's relations with the EU have deteriorated sharply in recent months as Brussels has alleged that the government had resorted to authoritarian measures and adopted pro-Russian stance. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Venezuela approves bill targeting domestic supporters of US sanctions. After Seoul, Pyongyang experienced heavy snowfall. And plane lands at the brand new international airport in Greenland's capital, Nuuk.
We are living in times where things are changing at an unforeseen pace. And at the forefront of many of these positive changes are strong individuals who are looking towards the future.
Through the stories I tell, I try and sort of reignite that intuitive sense of how close we are to nature and how much there is to learn from it.
Organic farming, it also helps you not only reduce the carbon footprint, but also help adapt because you are promoting natural farming.
Very lightweight, but it makes you feel that you don't have to eat too much. In this NFT channel, we use net cups with cocoa peats on it. This helps to penetrate the roots. There will be nutritious water flowing through the channel that supplies essential nutrients for the plant.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. Iran is set to meet with Britain, France and Germany for talks today on its nuclear program after the three governments joined the United States to have Tehran censured by the UN atomic watchdog. Iranian diplomat Majid Takht-Ravanchi, who served as the political deputy to Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, is scheduled to represent Iran in Friday's talks. Last week's chiding prompted a defiant response from Tehran, but its officials have since signaled a willingness to engage with others ahead of the return of US President-elect Donald Trump, whose last administration pursued a policy of maximum pressure against the Islamic Republic. Last week, the 35-nation Board of Governors of the UN's International Atomic Energy Agency adopted a resolution condemning Iran for its lack of cooperation on nuclear issues. Iran described as politically motivated the resolution brought by Britain, France, Germany and the United States. Now, Venezuela's National Assembly approved a law on Thursday that could impose bans of up to 60 years on individuals who support sanctions against the country, preventing them from holding public office. The Simon Bolivar Liberator law approved by Venezuela's National Assembly includes provisions to prosecute individuals in absentia. This law is part of President Nicolas Maduro's broader effort to tighten control over various sectors following the disputed presidential election in July. The vote by Venezuela's legislature came after US House of Representatives approved the Bolivar law, which would ban US government agencies from hiring individuals with business ties to Maduro's government. Maduro has dismissed the law as trash. Temporary bans on holding office are common in Venezuela, often imposed on opposition politicians for supporting sanctions against Maduro's government. Now, a power cut interrupted Zimbabwe's parliament on Thursday as Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube concluded his budget speech, leaving President and other top officials sitting in the dock. The power cut, symptomatic of Zimbabwe's ongoing energy crisis, occurred despite Parliament's dedicated electricity supply. Opposition MPs seized on the blackout as a metaphor for the country's struggles, which include daily 12-hour power cuts due to drought-induced low generation at the Kariba Dam. Before the interruption, Ncube projected a 15% contraction in the agricultural sector this year due to drought, citing expectations of above-average rainfall that could also boost power generation. Now, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense on Friday reported an increase in Chinese military activity around the island, detecting over 30 PLA aircraft and 8 planned vessels around Taiwan. In response, Taiwan has stepped up security along its maritime borders. Taiwan's armed forces conducted a comprehensive air defense drill on Thursday as China reportedly prepares for its third large-scale military exercise, Joint SWOT 2024C, near Taiwan. The drill, which involved air, naval and missile defense units, was conducted to strengthen readiness against potential aerial and missile threats. The Air Force Command stated that the exercise took place from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., deploying fighter jets, naval vessels and air defense missile systems. Aircraft such as indigenous defense fighter Mirage 2000 F-16 and C-130 transport planes were utilized along with ground-based air defense missile units. Now, a mass protest rally erupted in India's Kolkata, demanding the release of ISKCON priest Chinmoy Krishnadas, arrested in Bangladesh. Protesters marched to the Bangladesh Deputy High Commission, condemning the persecution of Hindus. The Indian government urged Bangladesh to safeguard minorities as global figures, including ousted PM Sheikh Hasina and Mary Milben, voiced support.
The arrest of ISKCON priest Chinmoy Krishnadas Brahmachari in Bangladesh has sparked widespread outrage, with calls for his immediate release. On Thursday, the Dhaka High Court refused to intervene on ISKCON issue after being informed that authorities concerned have taken necessary measures in this regard. It also refused to pass a suo motu order on banning ISKCON's activities in Bangladesh.
Chinmoy Krishnadas ji, who is a former member of ISKCON and a spokesperson of the Sanatan Jagran Manch, he has been asking for some thing that which all the Hindus and all the Hindu organizations of Bangladesh have been asking in a very peaceful way. That is that the safety of Hindus should be ensured, and the temples, the places of worship, they should be protected, and those who are perpetrators of the crime of violence, of inciting violence, they should be charged and punished as per the law.
In India, Hindu organization on Thursday took out a rally to office of Bangladesh Deputy High Commissioner in Calcutta, protesting atrocities on Hindu community and arrest of spiritual leader Chinmoy Krishnadas in the neighboring country. India has called upon Bangladesh to ensure safety and security of Hindus and all minorities and their places of worship. India's Minister of State for External Affairs, Kirti Singh, in a written reply in the upper house of Indian Parliament, informed that primary responsibility of protection of life and liberty of all citizens of Bangladesh rests with the Bangladesh government. On Thursday, while former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, issued a statement in support of Chinmoy Das, Sheikh Hasina said, "A top leader of Sanatan religious community has been unjustly arrested. He must be released immediately. A temple has been burnt in Chittagong. Previously, mosques, shrines, churches, monasteries and homes of Ahmadiyya community were attacked, vandalized and looted and set on fire. Religious freedom and security of life and property of people of all communities should be ensured." American singer Mary Milburn also expressed concerns over arrest of ISKCON priest. She wrote on social media X, "The imprisonment of Chinmoy Krishnadas and the continued attacks against Hindus and other minorities by extremists in Bangladesh must be addressed now by world leaders. We must preserve religious freedom and the safety of all people of faith globally." While West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee expressed support for the centre's position on escalating violence against Hindus in Bangladesh, Chinmoy Krishnadas was denied bail and sent to jail by Chattogram 6th Metropolitan Magistrate Court on Tuesday. Bureau Report, DD India.
Meanwhile, the General Secretary of ISKCON Bangladesh, Charu Chandra Das Brahmachari, said that Chinmoy Krishnadas Brahmachari does not belong to ISKCON Bangladesh as he was expelled by the organization. Addressing a press briefing at Swami Bagh Ashram in Dhaka, the General Secretary of ISKCON Bangladesh said that the organization would not shoulder any responsibility over his statements and speech. Some weather-related updates now. The deep depression in the southwest Bay of Bengal continues to wreak havoc across Sri Lanka, claiming 12 lives and leaving 2 people missing. As of 11:30 p.m. last night, the system was located 240 km northeast of Trincomalee and is expected to move northwest towards India's Tamil Nadu, with its impact on the island gradually diminishing. The Met Department has said that the system will gradually lose intensity and turn into a depression by Saturday. The Disaster Management Center has reported that over 4 lakh people in 24 districts are affected, with around 36,000 individuals seeking refuge in 345 safety shelters. Flooding has damaged over 4,800 acres of paddy fields and 2,054 houses, while rising levels in reservoirs have further compounded the crisis. Flood warnings remain in place for several rivers, including the Mahaveli and Kalani. Authorities urge residents to stay cautious and prioritize safety as relief efforts continue. Now, South Korea has been witnessing record snowfall for past 3 days, and now its neighbor North's turn. Pyongyang and surrounding regions saw first snow of the year on Thursday, with some areas experiencing heavier than usual snowfall. While the first snowfall in Pyongyang typically occurs in early November, this year snow came later than usual and was relatively heavy. While in Seoul, dozens of flights were cancelled, ferry operations suspended, and at least 5 people reported dead in the cold snap, although conditions showed signs of easing. The snowfall was the 3rd heaviest in Seoul, the capital, since records began in 1907. The unusually heavy November snow has been attributed to warmer than usual temperatures of the seas west of the Korean peninsula, encountering currents of cold air. And a plane made successful landing at Greenland's new international airport. Newly opened airport located near the capital Nuuk is set to become a major hub connecting Greenland to global destinations, offering both passenger and cargo services. This new airport is part of a broader initiative to enhance Greenland's connectivity, boost its economy and strengthen its international relations. The airport's completion is expected to have a significant impact on tourism, with Greenland's stunning landscapes, rich cultural heritage. And Australian lawmakers passed landmark rules to ban under-16s from social media, approving one of the world's toughest crackdowns on popular sites like Facebook, Instagram and X. The bill passed both parliamentary chambers late on Thursday in the country's capital, which will soon mean social media firms will need to take reasonable steps to prevent young teens from having accounts. A trial of enforcement methods will start in January, with the ban to take effect in a year. A number of countries have vowed to curb social media use by children through legislation, but Australia's policy is one of the most stringent till date. Meanwhile, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Friday that social media platforms now have a responsibility to ensure the safety of the children.
And today, as a direct result of our legislation passed through the Parliament yesterday, through the Senate and confirmed in the House today, parents can have a different discussion with their young ones, a different discussion that will result in better outcomes and less harm for young Australians. Platforms now have a social responsibility to ensure the safety of our kids is a priority for them. We're making sure that mums and dads can have that different conversation today and in future days. We've got your back is our message to Australian parents.
Now, teenagers around the world are largely expressing a mix of disbelief, frustration and concern regarding Australia's new social media ban for children under 16. Teenagers in Madrid and Belgium criticise a new ban passed by Australia on social media. In a reference to the ban, secondary school student Hannah said that she would not like this to happen in Spain.
I'm really strongly against it because I feel like we are a new generation that is accustomed of having social media in our life, and it's something we use on a daily basis, and I think restricting our use isn't going to help us.
On the other hand, Parisians and London had mixed feelings for the Australian ban on social media.
I mean, that's kind of crazy to me. I grew up with social media, and the year I was born was literally I think the year the iPhone 5 came out. So I'm just super used to growing up with it, and I feel like people under the age of 16 right now wouldn't know how to live without their phones and social media. It'd be a really hard change for them.
It could be a good thing. I don't know what would be the perfect age to introduce people to social media. Growing up, we didn't have social media in my day, and there wasn't so much pressure to. I think now you've got such an insight to celebrities, and not just celebrities, but people that may be able to do things that you can't afford to do.
Meanwhile, social media companies have criticised Australia's decision to ban them from allowing children under 16 to use their platforms. TikTok on Friday said it was disappointed in the law, accusing the government of ignoring mental health, online safety and youth experts who had opposed the ban. A company spokesperson said that the government had ignored expert advice, adding that it's entirely likely the ban could see young people pushed to darker corners of the internet where no community guidelines, safety tools or protections exist. Australia has approved a social media ban for children aged under 16, one of the world's toughest regulations targeting big tech. Now let us tell you about European countries and tech companies have been doing to regulate children's access to social media. So in Australia, the new law forces tech giants from Instagram and Facebook owner Meta to TikTok to stop minors logging in or face fines of up to $49.5 million. We're talking about Australian dollars. And a trial of methods to enforce it will start in January. However, official data in several European countries show huge numbers of children under 13 have social media accounts. Britain has no current plans for Australia-style restrictions, but it has launched a study to explore impact of smartphone and social media use on children. Britain will enforce the Online Safety Act from next year. The Act sets tougher standards for social media platforms, was passed in 2023 by the previous government. The Norwegian government has proposed raising the age at which children can consent to terms required to use social media to 15 years from 13 years. The government has begun work on legislation to set minimum age limit for social media use. Half of Norway's 9-year-olds use some form of social media. In the European Union, parental consent is required for the processing of personal data for children under the age of 16. In 2023, France passed a law requiring social platforms to obtain parental consent for minors under 15 to create accounts. Technical challenges mean it has not yet enforced. In April, a panel recommended stricter rules, including banning cell phones for children under 11 and internet-enabled phones for those under 13. In Germany, minors between the ages of 13 and 16 are allowed to use social media after parental consent. In 2018, Belgium enacted a law requiring children to be at least 13 years old to create a social media account, while the Netherlands doesn't have any laws regarding a minimum age for social media use. In Italy, children under the age of 14 need parental consent to sign up for social media accounts. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour, we'll give you updates on today's proceedings in the Parliament of India. And the 55th International Film Festival of India concludes with vibrant ceremony in Goa. And in a remarkable search and rescue operation, Indian Coast Guard safely evacuates 10 from Cuddalore Chemplast jetty.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Updates on today's proceedings in the Parliament of India. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will move the Banking Laws Amendment Bill in the lower house of the Parliament for consideration and passing. The bill aims to amend the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 in addition to the Banking Regulation Act, among other bills. The Railways Amendment Bill 2024 will also be taken into consideration in the lower house. While the Oil Fields Regulation and Development Amendment Bill 2024 and the Bharatiya Vayuyan 2024 are the bills that will be taken into consideration and passing in the upper house of the Parliament. All right, let's go across to DD India's Vishal Barrister is joining us live from Delhi. Vishal, last day of the first week of the winter session. Tell us what do we expect today?
Well, a very good morning to you, Abhishek. Yes, last day of the first week, and this was the day when the Joint Parliamentary Committee on the Waqf Amendment Bill was supposed to present its report, but because of the contention by the opposition parties, the chair, Jagdambika Pal, the MP from the Bharatiya Janata Party, he raised and asked for the extension of the tenure of the Joint Parliamentary Committee, and now the JPC would be presenting its report on the Waqf by the end of the next session, which is the monsoon session. Now, for the benefit of our international viewers, we need to understand what is Waqf. Waqf is an Arabic word which means inalienable charity under the Islamic law. And this bill aims at 40 amendments because, according to the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, Kiren Rijiju, and his reply in the Parliament, there are around 58,829 to be precise encroachments on Waqf properties, and out of which more than 800 are in the state of Karnataka alone. And that is why this bill aims at better legal framework, better audit, and also greater transparency. So now the Waqf Amendment Bill will not be there in this session. And as we have seen that largely the week is moving towards a complete washout because the opposition is not relenting. It is again and again creating ruckus in both houses of the parliament, either on the case of the alleged bribery case against the Adani group or the Sambal violence or the Manipur violence. In both houses of the parliament, we have seen that no business could be transacted. So today is the last day, and with the weekend also coming up, I think that I rather hope that some business could be transacted, but with the opposition hell-bent on bulldozing its demands, I don't think that they would allow the parliament to function. Abhishek?
Like you said, Vishal, since the beginning of this session, both houses of the parliament have seen repeated adjournments, protests also, and the opposition not ready to relent. How do you assess the parliament proceedings to pan out in the days ahead, and what do you think will be the strategy of the government?
Well, the government has made it very clear that it is ready for any kind of discussion. In fact, the Prime Minister, even before the Parliament commenced, he said that let's all sit together, let's work for the benefit of the country, because you have been sent by your constituencies here to raise the issues of the public matters. But the opposition has its own strategy. Now we have a better strength in both houses of the parliament, in the lower house and the upper house as well. So they want to establish their presence. And that is why repeatedly the opposition, largely headed by the Congress party, they have made it very clear that they want discussion, especially on the bribery case against the Adani group, and also other opposition parties also chipping in, like Samajwadi Party. They want discussion on the Sambal violence. And again, Congress raising the issue of Manipur violence. So I don't think that they would allow the parliament to function. It wants the country to know how the opposition is holding the parliament to ransom, and they're not allowing any business to be transacted.
All right, Vishal, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your inputs. India's External Affairs Ministry on Thursday said that it has lodged a strong protest with the Canadian High Commission in New Delhi after it put India in its list of cyber threat adversary. In a written reply to a question by CPIM Rajya Sabha member John Brittas, the Minister of State of External Affairs Kirtivardan Singh said that the Canadian Centre for Cyber Security in its biennial National Cyber Threat Assessment Report for the period 2025-26 released on 30th October 2024 placed India under Section 1 of cyber threat from state adversaries. He said that India's Ministry of External Affairs responded to the report on 2nd November 2024, stating that it was Canada's negative approach to ties with India without any evidence. The minister also said that consular officials at the Indian consulate in Vancouver were under audio and video surveillance, and their private communications have also been intercepted. He said that the ministry has lodged a strong protest with the Canadian High Commission in New Delhi, saying that as these actions were a flagrant violation of all diplomatic provisions. On the question of the safety and security of Indian diplomats in Canada, he said that Government of India is ensuring adequate protection at all times in consultation with the Canadian side. And India's Ministry of External Affairs has raised concern at the Australian government raising the visa fee for Indian students. In written reply to question by Neeraj Dangi, a Rajya Sabha member in India's upper house, the Minister of State of External Affairs Kirtivardan Singh said that the Australian government has raised the visa fee for Indian students from $710 Australian dollars to $1,600 Australian dollars with effect from 1st July 2024. In reply to the question, the Indian minister apprised the House that the matter has been taken up with relevant authorities in the Australian government along with other welfare issues related to the Indian students. And the suspense continues over the next Chief Minister of Western Indian state of Maharashtra. The BJP High Command has been in back and forth discussions regarding the Chief Minister's post with state, central and various stakeholders, and the final name is likely to be chosen in a day or two. Mahayuti leaders Devendra Fadnavis, Eknath Shinde and Ajit Pawar are in Delhi to discuss the seat-sharing formula and reach a consensus on the Chief Minister's name that will be accepted by all alliance partners. In the State Assembly elections, Mahayuti secured a landslide victory with 230 seats, including 132 for BJP in the 288-member State Assembly. And India has been re-elected to the UN Peace Building Commission for 2025-26. As a founding member and major contributor to UN peacekeeping, India is committed to continuing its engagement with the PBC to work towards global peace and stability. India is strongly supportive of nationally led plans for peace consolidation while arguing for a constructive approach and a lighter touch by PBC in extending advice, support and in extending its involvement. India's unique combination of being the largest democracy in the world with a strong tradition of respect for rule of law and the successful experience in nation building makes it particularly relevant in the context of 21st century peace building. And the 55th edition of IFFI concluded with a star-studded closing ceremony in Goa yesterday in fact, and witnessed the award ceremony as well. Australian director Philip Noyce was bestowed with the prestigious Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award. With this, Golden and Silver Peacock Awards were also bestowed by the dignitaries present at the event. Deepika Mehto's report has more.
Bringing the curtains down on an enchanting journey, celebrating the joy of cinema and nurturing the future, the 55th International Film Festival of India concluded on 28th of November with a spectacular closing ceremony at Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Indoor Stadium in Goa. This grand finale marked the culmination of 9 days of cinematic brilliance, celebrating the art of storytelling and the spirit of global cinema. Featuring over 200 films from 75 countries, masterclasses by industry stalwarts and inspiring panel discussions, this year's IFFI has showcased unifying power of cinema.
This time it's a festival of the industry, for the industry, but this time with Shekhar Kapoor ji here, we made it the by the industry possible. So this festival truly exemplifies the best in the industry, and believe me, all these are the moments which we want to cherish. These are the moments we want to live, and it's great that we have been able to do it. We have the future here. Future is now, sitting right here, and I think this is what makes this festival big. The biggest thing is the film bazaar. All of you would agree that this has been the biggest film bazaar, and thanks to Government of Goa for being such a great supporter of entertainment. Truly, Goa is the entertainment capital of our country. Thanks to the Honorable Chief Minister.
The Golden Peacock Award and the Silver Peacock Award were bestowed at the glittering closing ceremony. The most prestigious Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award was awarded to Australian director Philip Noyce. The 55th edition of IFFI witnessed celebrations, joy and a lot of world cinema uniting the stalwarts of the industry in one frame.
Let's now take a look at other stories making news. A 3-member Judicial Inquiry Commission led by Justice Devendra Kumar Arora has been formed to investigate the Sambal stone pelting incident. The November 24 clash during ASI's mosque survey left 4 dead and several injured. A bench led by Chief Justice of India Sanjeev Khanna will hear the Sambal Jama Masjid petition today. Haryana Chief Minister Nayab Singh Saini attended the inauguration of a sports complex and girls' hostel at Agroha Medical College. The event marked a significant boost to educational and sports infrastructure. The state government emphasized its commitment to development in education and athletics. India has appointed IFS officer VSDL Surendra as its next High Commissioner to Gabon. The Ministry of External Affairs announced the decision, highlighting strong India-Gabon relations. Gabon's embassy in India was established in New Delhi in 2008. In a remarkable search and rescue operation, Indian Coast Guard safely evacuated 6 stranded fishermen and 4 workers from the Kadlaw Kemplas jetty. The jetty, located 2 kilometers into the sea, faced deteriorating weather conditions. ICG commended the work done by the brave crew for their unwavering commitment and swift action. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. India launches the first ever tranche of auction of mineral blocks in the offshore areas. 5-time Grand Slam winner Iga Swiatek suspended after testing positive for prohibited substance. And New York holds its 98th Thanksgiving parade under pouring rain. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Within a week of US President-elect Donald Trump announced his intention to put heavy tariff against Mexico and Canada, US President Joe Biden has said the move would be detrimental to American strategic interest. The outgoing US President Joe Biden was visiting a fire station in Nantucket, Massachusetts, as part of his series of Thanksgiving meetings with various US department workers. In reply to question on Trump's announcement of putting tariff against Mexico and Canada, he said that such a decision would be against US interest, as both countries are strategically located as neighbors in 2 sides of the American borders. He hoped Trump would reconsider his decision.
So I think it's a counterproductive thing to do. You know, look, one of the things you've heard me say before, that we have an unusual situation in America. We're surrounded by the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and 2 allies, Mexico and Canada. And the last thing we need to do is begin to screw up those relationships. I think we've got them in a good place. I think by the way, you know, the cooperation with the outgoing president and the incoming president, the illegal crossings are down considerably to what they were back when he was in office. There's a lot more to do, but I just think, I hope they reconsider.
And the offshore area of India, encompassing territorial waters, the continental shelf, the exclusive economic zone and other maritime zones, is now open for exploration. Minister for Coal and Mines G. Kishan Reddy launched India's first ever tranche of 13 mineral blocks for auction in offshore areas. He said that it is a historic step towards exploring and harnessing undersea mineral resources within the country's maritime zones. The first tranche features 13 strategically identified blocks in the Arabian Sea and Andaman Sea. These areas are rich in minerals including construction sand, lime mud and polymetallic nodules, which are key for infrastructure growth, advanced manufacturing and the green energy transition. This initiative aligns with the vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to propel India towards self-reliance and sustainable development. Thus, it will strengthen India's industrial and green energy sectors while establishing itself as a global leader in critical minerals. Now, India's exports have surged over the past decade, doubling despite global challenges. In October 2024, exports rose by 19%, with merchandise and services both showing impressive growth. This boost has not only strengthened the economy but also positioned India to meet its $800 billion export target by financial year 2025.
India is the fastest growing G20 economy, and its rising exports are contributing to its march to becoming a developed nation by 2047, the 100th year of its independence. Despite persistent global challenges, India's exports have doubled over the last 10 years.
24-25, we expect to cross $800 billion of exports for the first time in India's history. In a way, despite having inherited such a weak economy, despite the Indian currency being one of the strongest performing currency amongst all emerging markets and not depreciating as much as other developing countries, despite 2 years of COVID, 2 international wars and the Red Sea crisis, despite all of these challenges, I do see before my eyes a further rapid growth in our export income.
India's exports surged by over 19% in October 2024. Both merchandise and service exports soar high. Merchandise exports rise by 17+%. Services exports surged by 21%. Highest ever trade in India's history in April to October 2024. India's total exports stand at $468.27 billion between April and October 2024. India aims for $800 billion export in FY25. India exports to 200 countries. India's exports of goods and services reaches 21.9% of GDP in 2023. India's exports were 13+% of GDP in 2000. The minister emphasized that digital infrastructure, an interconnected grid, and affordable data have made India the most attractive investment destination in the world.
विश्व का सबसे attractive अगर कोई डेस्टिनेशन है आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस के लिए, अगर विश्व का सबसे कोई अट्रैक्टिव डेस्टिनेशन है डेटा सेंटर्स लगाने के लिए, अगर कोई विश्व का सबसे अट्रैक्टिव डेस्टिनेशन है ग्लोबल कैपेबिलिटी सेंटर्स, जो आज दुनिया भर में बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियां भारत की तरफ आ रही हैं, भारत में बड़े बड़े सेंटर्स में लाखों लोगों को, युवा युवतियों को विशेषकर नौकरियां मिल रही हैं, अफोर्डेबल कंपेटिटिव प्राइस पे इंटरनेट और डेटा होने के कारण पूरी दुनिया समझ गई है कि भारत एकमात्र देश है जहां पे हमने अपना ग्लोबल कैपेबिलिटी सेंटर बनाना चाहिए.
Rising exports augur well for the economy. India's foreign exchange reserves crossed a record high of $704 billion USD in September this year. The rupee was less volatile versus the US dollar compared to other emerging economies, boosting India's financial health. Growing exports have also boosted employment opportunities, promoted industrial development and technological advancements. Syed Absarul Hassan's report for DD India.
Sports updates now. We'll start with hockey. The Indian junior men's hockey team secured a narrow 3-2 win against Japan in their second Junior Asia Cup match in Muscat on Thursday. Thokchom Kingston Singh opened the scoring for India in the 12th minute, but Japan's Neo Sato equalized shortly. Rohit restored India's lead in the 36th minute before Sato struck again in the 38th. However, Arijit Singh Hundal's decisive goal in the 39th minute ensured India held on to their slim advantage to secure a hard-fought victory. A 68-member Indian team will take part in the Asia-Pacific Deaf Games, which will take place in Kuala Lumpur from 1st to 8th December. The Indian contingent will leave on Friday for the Malaysian capital. The tournament is at par with the Asian Games for individuals with speech and hearing impairment. The tournament is seen as a precursor to the Deaf Olympics in Japan next year. India will compete in 7 disciplines, which includes athletics, badminton, chess, judo, table tennis, taekwondo and wrestling. 5-time Grand Slam champion Iga Swiatek has been handed a 1-month suspension after testing positive for the banned substance trimetazidine. The International Tennis Integrity Agency ruled the violation unintentional, attributing it to contamination in a melatonin supplement Swiatek was using for jet lag and sleep issues. The ITIA acknowledged Swiatek's minimal fault, stating her level of negligence was at the lowest end of the spectrum. The failed test occurred during an out-of-competition drug screening in August. New York City held its 98th annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade under pouring rain. Despite the relentless downpour, the parade marched on, showcasing its signature floats, giant balloons, marching bands and musical performances. Now, India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.